Well, welcome everybody. My name is Enrique Aleman Jr. and I'm proud today to be interviewing and recognizing one of our Derrick Bell Legacy Award honorees for this year's Critical Race Studies and Education Association. We're very honored to have Dr. Jamel Donnor here. He's one of our honorees this year. As you all know, the Derrick Bell Legacy Award honors critical race theorists, critical race studies scholars, and progressive educator activists committed to advancing social justice and educational race equity through their teaching, their research, their writing, and or their direct community action. This year, the executive board took nominations and made selections based on these nominations and the bodies of work of our honorees. Positive actions that illuminate our insight into racial injustice and the human condition require courage and commitment and are worthy of respect and acknowledgement. Therefore, this award was created by the association to honor scholars in our field. This award also recognizes individuals whose career accomplishments demonstrate personal courage and professional commitment to supporting and advocating for the faces at the bottom of the well. And so, again, congratulations, Dr. Donnor. Dr. Donnor is, I'm going to introduce him and I'm going to let him say a few words and we'll have a short conversation. Currently, Dr. Donnor is Associate Professor of Education at William and Mary. He's in the Department of Curriculum and Instruction, as well as American Studies and African Studies in the School of Education and Arts and Sciences. Dr. Donnor has a BA in Social Studies from Washington State University in Pullman, Washington, a Master's of Arts from The Ohio State University, and a PhD from University of Wisconsin-Madison. I need to ask you about that one, like how you do during football season. PhD in Curriculum and Instruction, where he finished up his doctoral work there. He's done some. He's been on both coasts. He started his career. Actually, he started his career in the middle of the country at Washington University in St. Louis. Did a postdoc there in the Department of Education prior to moving to Cal State University, Fullerton, on the West Coast for 3 years, where he was on the faculty in African American Studies. He has been at William and Mary on the East Coast since 2010, where he's worked his way up the ranks, first as an assistant professor, now as an associate professor, and has also served in a couple of capacities in Africana Studies, American Studies, and now as a new faculty affiliate for the Center for Racial and Social Justice. So he's done leadership, he's done a lot of service around these campuses and advising students. I was very impressed to kind of look at his CV. He's got over 40 different scholarly works, including 5 books, 3 of which, I just wanted to mention. I can't go through all of them, but very influential in critical race studies. He's done some work with his colleagues, Dr. Adrian Dixon, Dr. Cecilia Russo, on a 2016 book that's been very influential for myself, and I know for other scholars, called Critical Race Theory in Education, All God's Children Got a Song. It's in its second edition already. Also teamed up with Dixon once again in 2013 on the resegregation of schools, race and education in the 21st century. Again, a compilation of authors that have really pushed the field of critical race studies in directions that needed to go. And I did want to mention his most recent book, 2017 book with Harper, Scandals in College Sports, which again expands on his research agenda, not only to be around K-12 education, but also looking at higher education, athletics, black male athletes, which is extremely important as we see the changes that are happening across the NCAA and across higher education. As I mentioned, he's got a number of works, editorships, book chapters, referee journal articles that I can't go all through, but in combination, I think the board was very impressed and wanted to honor the nomination that he received. Again, it's a pleasure to honor you. We'll be having our reception at the conference, and it'll be good to see you. But we wanted to make this acknowledgement so that the wider audience, our virtual audience, could get a chance to hear from you. So I'm going to stop there. Again, congratulations to Dr. Jamel Donnor, a 2021 Derrick Bell Legacy awardee for the Critical Race Studies and Education Association.
Enrique, thank you for that warm introduction. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank the members of the Derrick Bell Legacy Award Committee for selecting me as the 2021 honoree. As my family, friends, colleagues, and students can attest, this honor means a lot to me as I'm more than a bit obsessed with Derrick Bell. Perhaps sharing how I met Derrick Bell will provide you some insight into my obsession. I happened to be home visiting family in New York City while on Christmas break from grad school at the University of Wisconsin-Madison in 2003, when I had an epiphany that I was going to quote unquote drop in on Derrick Bell at his office at NYU Law School and have him personally sign my copies of Faces of the Bottom of the Well and We Are Not Saved, and at the time, his most recent book, Ethical Ambition, Living a Life of Meaning and Worth. I did not call, nor did I send an email or make an appointment. I literally just showed up. After being cleared by campus security, I was directed to his office where his GA welcomed me, as well as informed me that Professor Bell was on his way to campus as he just so happened to be teaching on this particular day. Upon explaining my reason for stopping by, Professor Bell's GA allowed me to wait in the office until my academic hero arrived. Upon his arrival, I introduced myself to Professor Bell, who not only struck up a conversation with me about school choice, but gave me and autographed a copy of his Race, Racism, and American Law casebook that I still use to this day. He also invited me to sit in on his class that evening, which I gladly did, and he introduced me to his students. I say all that to say, for my peers from the Critical Race Studies and Education Association to say via the 2021 Derrick Bell Legacy Award that my research, writing, and actions have not only illuminated their insight into racial injustice and the human condition, but also that I have demonstrated personal courage and a professional commitment to supporting and advocating for the faces of the bottom of the well makes the work that I do worth it. Again, thank you for the honor.
What a great story. Yeah, that took some guts, man, to drop in, do a pop-in with Professor Bell.
Dude, you know that when you're a doc student, you know, you think you can do anything.
For sure. Hey, I had a couple of questions. You know, we are going to talk more at the conference, but
Sure.
just kind of wanted, you know, to get your take. You're on the East Coast, you know, there in Virginia. I'm here in Texas. You know, the times that we're living in, we hadn't seen each other in a while. We sometimes see at least once a year at a conference or sit on a
At
panel together.
least.
Yeah. So not only are we dealing with, you know, with the aftermath or current effects of COVID to African American, Latino, American Indian communities that are being devastated, the racial reckoning that happened in the middle of all this after George Floyd's murder, obviously the national politics. You're a lot closer to me, you know, to DC that are having to deal with this, and now the state legislatures, right, passing legislation related to so-called anti-critical race theory movement in public schools. Just kind of wanted to get your take, like how, you know, what you see the future of our area of study, you know, how the importance of it, you know, how we continue to do this work.
Great question. I think the future is bright. I think also it's going to require us to be more vigilant than we have been in the past. You know, as you know, every time there appears to be racial quote unquote progress, there's always the impending backlash. And so kind of like what you said with these state legislatures passing these anti-critical race theory laws, which really isn't about critical race theory, but it's about something bigger. It means that one, our work, we're being heard, our work is having an impact. And so in order to kind of blunt the impact that we're having, we're seeing this great pushback. So I think the future is bright, and there will be plenty of opportunities moving forward for scholars who are truly committed to critical race theory.
Yeah, one of the things I never had a chance to ask you either, your background, your training, right? You're training at Ohio State, you're training at Madison. Obviously, you've worked and were prepared and had opportunities to work with one of the greats, Dr. Gloria Ladson-Billings. And I just wanted to kind of just get your sense of how her work and how her mentorship and her example influenced you, and how that continues to influence you today, because
Oh man,
she's still not done. She's still producing,
no,
like she's going for tenure or something. She's out there, doing work that is very inspiring.
dude, man, who are you telling? I'm always texting her like, you need to stop writing so the rest of us can catch up. You're putting the game too far out of reach. But it's funny you say that, because I when I left Ohio State, I didn't know who she was in stature of the field.
Yeah.
One of my professors, Professor Beverly Gordon at Ohio State, was the one who kind of said, "Hey, when you go there, I want you to introduce yourself to Gloria Ladson Billings." Also, Bill Tate was there at the time, and Carl Grant was there, and so she said, tell them you know me, introduce yourself, etc. So I went there. I originally went to Wisconsin to study higher education,
Hmm.
but I one of my first classes was the culturally relevant pedagogy that she taught, and it was just like, okay, this is a great thing. But I had issues adjusting to Wisconsin Madison. It wasn't like Columbus. For a myriad of reasons, weather just being one of them. And so I think after my first year, I was seriously considering transferring back to Ohio State. And she and I had a frank conversation in the hallway, and so she was like, "Why don't you come work with me?" And I said, at the time I didn't know who she was, and I was just like, "Well, you got 1 year to make this work." And so, and so 1 year turned into 6. And it was the best decision I ever made. And so just she was able to um, at least demonstrate for me the balance of a scholar, in the sense like you can actually be a scholar who does this work but then also have a life. Like it's okay to watch the Sopranos at the time. It's okay to have have this life balance but then also be this serious and rigorous scholar. But to your opening question, I don't make to this day, I don't make a major decision without talking with her. She and I, as well as Bill Tate, we text multiple times a day.
Hmm.
And so it's one of those things where the mentorship has evolved into a genuine friendship. And a lot of the things that they've taught me, I try to apply in my relationships with my students. And I'll just say briefly, the reason why I went to WashU in St. Louis was because of Bill Tate. I had a tenure track job offer, and I turned it down because I wanted to work with Bill Tate as a postdoc. I felt like it was a once in a lifetime opportunity, not knowing if all the risks. I wouldn't necessarily advise a doc student in this day and age to turn down a tenure track job, but at that time I was single, no kids, no mortgage, no car note. So I said, why not? And it's been the best. It continues to reap benefits in ways that I can't imagine.
That's great. Yeah. Now, Dr. Tate is president of Louisiana State University, and
First Black president in the SEC.
yeah, that's a great story. Yeah. And both of them obviously influenced critical race studies.
Oh
Very
yeah.
influential work early on. I know
Oh yeah.
we came out about the same time. I finished up in '04. You finished it up in '05. So
Yep.
yeah, some
Yep.
of these scholars that were really shaping the way we thought about using this framework in our work, and
Mm-hmm.
continuing to do that now in leadership, obviously. And Dr. Latson Billings continues to, as you said, she's not slowing down at all.
Right.
Um,
Right.
done good work. Well, let me wrap up with one more, because we're both girl dads, and I often think about the work that we do and what kind of futures our daughters have as Black and Brown women. Um, what are your impressions about the work that we do and how it has a potential of continuing to disrupt these old ways of thinking, to disrupt the policies that have limited Black and Brown women, and the work that they do. And I know it's special for us because we have very special Black and Brown women in our families, young women.
Yeah. Again, another great question, in the sense that it really touches on my new line of research, where published an article earlier this year on the experiences of Black valedictorian in Mississippi. And it really has taken off in ways I had not expected. And just really kind of seeing, as you know, this in a lot of instances, much of the progress that our racial groups have is the result of women. And so the fact that, I'm able to, I'm in a privileged enough position to kind of shine that light and give these women their due, but also shine a light on the injustices where, this case is unique in the sense where, okay, we've gotten the opportunity, the equal opportunity, and we've proven ourselves to be as smart as you, if not smarter, and we can't even have that. Mm-hmm. So I think when we start thinking about where our work lies in the future is really taking on white supremacy in these ways in which, where it even, and pointing out its inherent contradictions in ways like, unlike before, where they're totally against equal opportunity, or when we get the opportunities and we prove them wrong, they still find ways to kind of undercut that.
Absolutely.
And just understanding the effects that has, particularly on women of color. Yeah.
That's great. I appreciate that. Yeah, we'll look forward to looking at that work. That's great. I look forward to reading that new stuff that you're producing. And again, just as a quick, just preview, wanted to congratulate you for our virtual audience and to ask everybody. We are still taking registrations right now. We are going to have pretty much a hybrid conference. Some of us are going to Delaware. It'll be good to see Dr. Donnor there, and to be able to hand him his award and to catch up. But for those who are still interested in registering, we still have our link up on our website, CRSEA.org. So I'd ask you to go ahead and do that. And again, thanks, Dr. Donnor. Congratulations. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Appreciate it.
Take care.